Let's see if it works. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to our council meeting. We're doing this live and also on Zoom, so people can watch virtually. And question period is done in 3 ways. People were able to write in their questions. They're going to be able to ask live on Zoom, or if you're here today. So let me introduce who's with us. Andy Schuster, City Councilor. We have Oren Sabag, Mike Cohen, Stephen Early, Mitch Kajowski, Lior Azarat. Before we start the meeting, we're going to pass a resolution because we've applied to the provincial government for the right to have hybrid meetings. And in the interim, we're doing it a different way. Councillor Cohen and myself are compromised are here once again, but we'll be doing most of the meeting from separate rooms because we're immunocompromised and we're not going to be spending several hours in a room with others. So the resolution to be moved to start the meeting is moved by Councillor Cohen.
Yes.
Go ahead. You have it yet, or I'll do one more thing. It was sent to you, but you can just move it. You can just wing it.
Yes. So I so move, Mr. Mayor, that are you talking about Stephen Early?
Stephen Early.
Okay, yes, council hereby appoints Councillor Stephen Early to preside over tonight's council, sitting in the absence of the mayor and of the acting mayor.
Moved by Councillor Cohen, seconded by Councillor Schuster. All in favor? Carried. And you are now presiding, and I will continue for another year. Thank you. You want to move the minutes? You need us for the minutes? No, not in the do it tomorrow. It's like that. Okay, no problem. Because I also have a bunch of other things that I want to say too, but I'll talk about my own. Okay. All right. I'll see you in a minute.
So we'll begin the agenda with the question period. So we have questions that are that were sent in by email. We have some residents in person as well. So Maitre Schechter, maybe we'll start with those who submitted their questions first. We'll just give the mayor a moment to get settled in. And so the mayor will be answering the questions from his office. And that'll be followed, once we do that, it'll be followed by the other items on the agenda. So we'll just give the mayor a moment to get settled in. And just while we're waiting, I want to say although it's still a little awkward getting used to being in person and remote at the same time, it's nice to have residents coming out to the meeting. So I thank those of you that are attending in person. I thank you. And those who are attending on the internet, we thank you for watching. So we'll switch to Maitre Schechter, who will read the first question.
Okay, before we get to the question, there's a couple of things of business I want to do. First of all, as we know, there is COVID still going on, and I want to make a couple of announcements. First of all, we should have the moment of silence to remember all those that are still recuperating in hospital and wish them a speedy recovery. And then I'll make a couple of announcements. So a moment of silence, please. Okay. The first announcement is our mask mandate. As you know, masks are going to be lifted on May the 15th, and the city of Côte Saint-Luc is also following provincial rules, but we are also providing for members of our vulnerable population who want to be able to get back to normal safely. So certain programs that can be controlled, such as speakers events, such as theatrical productions that are indoors, such as our council meetings, where we consider it an essential service and we want everybody to feel comfortable to be able to attend if they wish to ask a question in person, will be requiring masks. There'll also be signage throughout the city recommending masks, just like the all the specialists are saying masks should be, are recommended to continue to be worn. So we'll have signage of that nature, as well as certain rooms, such as a room in the library where individuals who are immunocompromised or feel vulnerable based on other medical conditions may decide that they'd feel safer. So we'll have signage asking people to please respect the vulnerable population and in that room wear a mask. It's not going to be policed, but we know that we have a very caring community. And if we have rooms of that nature, we're sure that people will respect the vulnerable population that uses those rooms. So that was the first announcement. The other thing that I did want to announce, which is exciting, is our living lab. Here it is. Yeah, this week we launched our living lab. So the living lab is similar to the Smart City program, where we were finalists and were able to we were finalists and won $250,000. Now we've gotten a grant of close to $1 million, and we're working with our partners at the Séance, Dr. Rosenberg, with Natalie Beer from the School of Rehabilitation of University of Montreal, with Sylvain Giroux and Geneviève Poliès from the SPVM. Sylvain Giroux is from the University of Sherbrooke. And together we're going to be working over the next 3 years with close to $1 million to use technology in senior homes. This is a pilot project. Different seniors in our community are going to be monitored based on their voluntary joining the program. And there's a survey right now online for any individuals who might be interested to volunteer for this program, for their parents, for their friends who may benefit from having this type of ability to basically receive care at home, medical care, and just basic monitoring. So if individuals, we know they're not following their general pattern, such as they're not getting up on time, they're staying in bed, they didn't open up the fridge, we know something's wrong, and we send the proper EMS or our volunteer citizens on patrol to check them out. So it's a great program. We're very happy to be a part of it, and we continue to be leaders to ensure the care, particularly of the elderly who need this type of assistance. So that was the announcements for the day, and now we'll move to question period. So go ahead, Maitre Schechter.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I will now return to question period. The first questioner that we received tonight was from Mr. Norman Sabin, and he asks as follows. He says, in recent years, there have been talk the Carey Square will be redeveloped into a large residential and commercial complex. Has council been approached by any developer? Are there any definite plans? If so, how long will the construction take? And what will the project look like? Does council agree in principle with a large redevelopment of the Carey Square? Thank you.
Right. Well, that's a very good question. We don't have any development proposal in front of us at this time. The three malls, Côte Saint-Luc Shopping Center, Cavendish Mall, and the Carey Square, have all expressed interest in redevelopment in terms of having residential with commercial at the bottom. And we're going through a process to have consultation over the coming year that will involve the citizens giving their opinions of what should take place in those three malls, and then we'll go from there. So we're looking at reviewing our master plan, which is the document that we are supposed to do every 10 years, and it will include those three malls. So there's nothing before us right now, and we won't be doing anything without serious consultation with the public on all three malls. Thank you.
Our second question or comment is from Sandy Dubia. She states, and I quote, "We live in a secular society. There are laws. If you break them, there are consequences. In our city, you are not allowed to create religious institutions in residential areas. Why are there no consequences in Côte Saint-Luc for these laws constantly? End of quote, end of question.
Our community was built based on many factors, including the mainstream religious institutions and many others that have come along the way. And our city has found many ways to accommodate them. And I'm going to speak to that at length. At the same time, we do need to ensure their safety of all the congregants and ensure the peaceful enjoyment of residential streets by neighbors. So it's a complex issue, but we were elected to balance those complex issues, and we're doing our best. And we are moving forward, as was promised to the community before the last election. We are moving forward to ensure that those institutions that still are not legal, and many have become legal over the years. Even tonight, we have on our agenda an item where we're going to be passing the final reading on a bylaw to legalize the strip mall where Adar is and the Bells community are on top on the upper level, and that will make them legal in that place. And that bylaw had the right for registered referendum, but there was no opposition to it because it's in a commercial zone, and it's accepted by the community and will pass tonight. So we're always finding ways, and you'll hear more about that later in the evening.
Our next question and comment is from Kay Wolofsky. Beginning of the quote, "We have been paying taxes in CSL since 1952. We live in a residential area. We don't want our quiet streets to be filled with illegal shuls. When are we going to enforce civil law and shut down the lawbreakers?" End of quote. End of question.
Well, we're not just shutting anybody down. That's never been the intention of council. Our intention is to go to the community and find ways to regularize status where possible, even if it's in a home. If it's in a particular home that's on a street that's been well integrated into the community, then it goes through the regular zoning process of register and referendum. And there are many ways where certain institutions will be approved and others maybe not, but the goal is to try to find ways to keep everybody, keep all the organizations, the congregations that exist, to find homes for them in our community, either where they are now, hopefully, and if they have to move, so then we need to accommodate them and find other places. But we certainly rely on them to help create the wonderful city that we have. But our intention is not to shut any congregation down. We want to find ways to keep them here in Côte Saint-Luc.
Our next questioner is Josie Mancini. Beginning of quote, "I want to thank Mayor Brownstein and the councillors for the concerns of the illegal synagogues. I'm happy that this matter has been dealt with. I would just like to have an update on the subject. Again, thank you, everyone. Thank you." End of quote.
Okay, so I'm going to give the update now, since is that the last question on this topic?
No, there is one more. There are two more questions, or two more. Yeah, there are two more questioners.
So if they're the same topic, read them. So I can
One
give
more
the
on
update.
this topic.
Read the one on this topic.
Heather Treston, thank you for your continued hard work, dedication, and this promised immediate action on the issue of non-conforming synagogues located in residential areas. I understand a bylaw was passed in April, adding additional uses to strip malls and commercial zones. End of quote.
Okay. All right. So let me give an update, a little update on what's been going on, because I know people are here tonight, some in the audience and some who've asked questions by writing them in, and others may want to speak virtually, which is allowed as well. So this is the update of what's been going on, and it is a little upsetting to me, because I'm trying very hard to make this happen in a peaceful way where we can all get along and benefit. So I've received many emails concerning this new bylaw, the PCMY bylaw, which isn't even on the agenda tonight, because we're only having our first consultation on it on June the 20th. But in any event, certain organizations have encouraged their congregants to write emails, and I received many. Now, the purpose of the PCMY bylaw is to find a way to give all the non-conforming institutions the ability to legalize. And it gives them the right to request official legal usage as a religious institution. Of course, like any zoning change, it has the possibility of a registered referendum, just like the one we're doing tonight for Adar in the strip mall. And when you conform and you are a religious institution, there are certain requirements to ensure that the congregants are safe, like all of our religious institutions, whether they've been there for a long time, and I'll go through some. They need certain security, exits, emergency exits. They have to ensure that if you're dancing and celebrating, that the floors are strong enough to hold the people during a wedding celebration or so on. So if we go back to the history of Côte Saint-Luc, we've had different tools over the time, and like the Bells community, which use the Adar space, is now being legal tonight. Rabbi Yeshurun's congregation is also legally operating up out of a commercial mall on Codwell. We've added more spaces to be used at the Cavendish Mall, the Olympic Building at 555 Westminster, at 7005 Kildare, the CIBC Center. Now, all these places, whether they have institutions there now or in the future, are able to do so. And the zones that we're creating in the areas, that if the population accepts them, are for present and future religious institutions on those particular streets, should the residents of those neighborhoods approve them. We also have religious institutions permitted in the strip mall south of Côte Saint-Luc Road, where Fruity Maruti is. And the Breslev Center on Westminster was also transformed from a commercial establishment many years ago. The other thing that we're doing is this PCMY bylaw, where we're creating RM zones in the city in areas where we feel there are members of the community that have moved into those streets with the goal to be close to the institution they like to go to. And if those people approve by majority vote, if there is a call for a referendum, by majority vote to allow for that zone, then those will be able to get their status as well. But they'll have to have security measures to ensure their safety. And that's in the benefit of all congregants. You know, Côte Saint-Luc was built based on the religious community's institutions. First, there was St. Richard's Parish, which was founded in 1959. And then we have other older synagogues like Beth Zion, Beth Israel, Beth Aaron, the Tifereth Beth David Jerusalem, that have been there since the 60s. Or Chaim was founded in the 1970s. And in 1993, they felt it was too small. So I was a newly elected councillor. And I remember very well, Jean Alul and Joseph Ziri and Emil Malka came to me and said, what can we do? And I went with them door to all the neighbors, and we convinced them to allow Or Chaim to expand to the beautiful congregation that now it has. I bet you it could be even bigger, it would be better, but we really have expanded that building. It was a really small building. Then Chabad was active at the Côte Saint-Luc Shopping Center, and there was a request to find them a home. And I was the counselor that spoke up, no matter where that land they wanted was. I was always saying, we need to find them a home. Let's find them a home. And I was pushing for it. And eventually the council came to a place. They have a beautiful, they do so much good for the community, Rabbi Raskin and Sarah Raskin. And it's wonderful that they have all the contributions that they do to the community. And we found them a legal place. We moved them from the Eatons at the Cavendish Mall till we found the beautiful center that they have today. That provides more than religious prayer. It also provides so much more. And we value that. And we need that. And I worked very, very hard on that. And you can ask Rabbi Raskin. It was not an easy battle, but we got to where we are today. In the mid-80s, we had Beth Rambam in the 1920s. We've seen the arrival, though, so then there was Beth Rambam that was also legally established as a synagogue, a wonderful congregation that exists today. In the 2000s, we have the arrival of Kol Yehuda, Breslev, of Kolel, of the Bells, and other congregations. And these congregations purchased homes in order to create their congregations. Then on Haywood and two on Eldridge, and the one on Hudson moved to Adar. So, and that's all in recent years. So the issue is, it was one thing when there were three, and we did have three originally. There were three if we look back 30 years ago. But then all of a sudden, the last 7 years, it's like we have 7 or 8. in homes. And if we don't do something now, then we'll have 20, 30, we'll just keep on having more and more. So now's the time to find a way, but we need to work together. Working together means not having a rabbi go on video and asking the entire congregation to send emails to council to harass us. Working together doesn't mean sending an email written by a supposed rabbi that says, to the attention of Mr. Brownstein and whoever else, together with you, is passing this ridiculous law. You claim to be a Jew. You're a complete disgrace to the Jewish nation. Your own grandparents and family were murdered at the hands of Hitler, and you continue where he left off. Shame on you. Shame on you. Shame on you. I don't envy the hell that awaits you and your cohorts. You can still repent and mend your ways before it's too late or forever suffer a terrible fate. Well, I'm not going to embarrass this person by giving his name, but it's been confirmed that he's a member of one of the congregations that we're dealing with. Some people tell me he's a rabbi, and he claims to know my past. My grandparents were not thankfully killed in the Holocaust. They all came to Canada. My grandmother was born here. My others immigrated before the war. And he clearly doesn't know who I am. Because Mitchell Brownstein has always valued Jewish community and Jewish life. When I was a youth, I raised the most money raised from new gifts that combined Jewish appeal. Then I became president of the Young People's Federation. Then with Mike Cohn and others, we created an organization called the Jewish Adult Programming Society, where so many people who live in Côte Saint-Luc today found their spouses and live in this great community. And I mentioned the work that I did for Or Chaim and Chabad and many of the rabbis, you know, from some of the shtibels. A lot of them are, wonderful to work with, friendly, and I have great relationship with Rabbi Raskin and so many of the rabbis in our community. But this type of campaign will not be tolerated, and it's an embarrassment to your own congregations. Sending emails and posting videos to harass our council will not do you any good. Work with us. We've worked for years to build a beautiful city. You're talking to a council where the entire council and the mayor are Jewish. Work with us. Make this a better place together. So stop the email campaigns, stop the videos, stop harassing our council, and be the type of people that you're supposed to be, that God has taught us to be together. We'll come to a conclusion that will be good for everyone. So that's the update on what's going on with the PCMY bylaw. Any other questions?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Margaret Ronis, beginning of quote, over the past 2 years, the city has replaced, when is the city changing the water pipes of the homes that have lead in their water, end of quote.
Okay. I don't have the exact update. Does somebody have the update on which zones we have certain pipes that are being changed? I don't have the exact streets. Does anyone have that information on what we're doing this year? Okay, Councilor Kudowski.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I can't provide exact addresses, but they're kind of all over the place. These are homes for which testing was done between 2018 and 2020. So prior to the mass water testing we did last year. So for those homes whose lead results came in at 5 parts per billion or higher, those homes will get pneumatic excavations or visual tests this year in 2022, who had water tests last year, and those who are getting water tests this year will have visual inspections next year. So the homes that are being repaired this year are, I want to say, relics from times past before we began the mass testing. And it's, I believe, I want to say 59 pipes. There we go. I was only 2 off. Not bad. Thank you, Stephen. Thank you, Councillor Italy. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Next question.
Mr. Mayor, that is the end of the written questions. I also have questions from members of the public that are physically present this evening.
Excellent. Go ahead.
The first questioner I have is Ms. Sharon Frieden. Microphone's just a-
I was 4 times vaccinated and I never had COVID. It's very hard, it's muffled. Anyway. Just to read my question, so I'm clear. Okay. Good evening, everybody. My name is Sharon Friedman, 6800 McDonald Avenue, with all the traffic is non-stop. Okay, I have 2 questions. CN and whoever continues to be the obstacles to getting this road started. I brought council the name of a person in charge of CN and in order to make a formal complaint, as I do have the support of most of the people living in my area and Devon's ashore, when will this council become more aggressively, publicly, and why haven't you made a formal complaint against CN in terms of their obstacles? That's question 1. Question 2. After 40 years of waiting in traffic for a new promised road, we hear there are now environmental studies. What is the cost of these environmental studies and who has the contract? What are they looking for, or is this just another delay because by the time the road gets started, the results of the studies will be useless as more people buy hybrid and electric cars? Can you please respond?
So if I caught it, I'm not the, I hope I caught it, but the first was about the noise from the rail yards and the other was about the Cavendish extension. Am I correct?
It is so hard, muffled. Sorry, what?
No, Stephen, am I correct? It's about Cavendish extension and the yards. You go ahead and you answer. Go ahead, Stephen. Answer. You're in the room.
I'll try to answer as best as I can. Thank you very much for asking. So the reality is this: the city of Côte Saint-Luc is 100% in favor of the Cavendish extension. The issue with the Cavendish extension is not limited by us. It is limited by multiple parts. However, I could tell you we are actively working behind the scenes. Both the mayor and Councillor Burku have been very, very active on this file. In terms of, I would say now is not necessarily the time to lay blame of CN versus CP, but I will say that a lot of parts are working together to make this happen. In terms of the environmental studies, this is something that is required for any, there's a commission called the BAP, and they do environmental studies on any major work in the province of Quebec. And I'll give an example. One of the topics that will be coming up in the next few months and few years is Hydro-Quebec as well, because there'll be some work being done in terms of the hydro lines and hydro substation. There too, it has to go, an environmental study has to be done. This isn't a requirement of Côte Saint-Luc. This is a requirement of the provincial government. Côte Saint-Luc, we don't pay, it's not something we would pay for directly, but it is something that is a requirement for any major project in the province of Quebec. But I can assure you it's a standard practice for any project. So just to conclude, the city of Côte Saint-Luc is 100% in favor of the extension. We're working very hard to make it done well. My son, if I may share, is turning, just turned 15. My hope was that this many years ago, my hope was that the Cavendish extension would be ready by the time he starts driving. That won't happen. However, from everything I understand, it will happen within the next few years. I won't make a prediction on an exact time because I learned better than to do that. However, I'm confident that it will happen in the next few years. So I thank you for your question.
So should I go ahead and and write my own letter of complaint to their boss that's really very high up and to the two ministers of transportation.
What I would say is it will help us if you want to write letters to the provincial government, but I would say this is a project that involves multiple players. It involves the provincial government. It also involves the federal government. It also involves multiple municipalities because, as you can imagine, it affects Côte Saint-Luc. It also touches on TMR. It touches on Montreal as well. So I would say, feel free to write. Oh, and the borough of Saint Laurent. Well, the city of Montreal, but the borough of Saint Laurent, the borough of Côte-Neige, NDG. So I would say,
No, but who's the major obstacle right now?
like I said, I don't want to get into a game of laying blame against any one individual. I don't know if that would be helpful at this point, but I would say if you have the time, and I like your T-shirt, I would say if you have the time, I would suggest to write a few letters, and I think that could only help us. So that would only help us. So I appreciate your support on this endeavor. Thank you. We'll go to the next question, Metro
Sure.
Sector.
Tanya Alfonso.
Thank you. I'll be brief that Mayor Bronson addressed a lot of the questions that you may have on the non-friendly use of residential property. I want to say, thank you to the mayor and to the councils who have had the courage to push forward this particular bylaw and creating a path for legalization and, providing some certainty on what the future state could look like. I think that could be beneficial for all the parties employees. And it also offers, protection for those who are not protected today. And so I think that there's a lot of positive input in the path that we're moving forward to. I do understand that there are zones that have been included in this effort, including a zone that would include Eldridge and the adjacent duplex to my duplex that I currently own. I will say that although I no longer live in my duplex, I do still rent it to very good tenants. And I will say that they have experienced some serious disruption and had to call the police at least twice on Curran because of, I would say, a day long of excessive noise. And they do have young babies in their home. And I think that we're all entitled to celebrate, but we have to be respectful neighbors. And so I was a bit surprised to understand that an adjacent duplex would have the opportunity to even apply and would qualify to apply for this legalization because of all the disruption that we've endured. Neighbors have moved, they have sold their homes. I have moved. It's 4 years that I first brought this issue to council in 2018 of May. And so we're here today. I'm encouraged that you have put forward a path for certainty for everyone. But I am concerned that we've included an adjoining duplex, the opportunity for this use. So I just like to hear your thoughts. I wanted to share that with you that, the disruption continues today.
So Mr. Mayor, are you okay if I answer this one? Because we can't hear you.
Right, I was on mute though. We are having a consultation on June 20th and everybody's invited to attend, those in favor and those against, so that we can address all the concerns to the best of our ability and see what we can come up with. There's no perfect plan.
Metro Sector, the next question.
Yes, our third question from somebody in the audience is Mickey Harar.
year. In 2007, and when we moved there, so I know it's not an easy subject to tackle, but I appreciate your commitment to that, to adopt the PPC law, resolve the issue. How many zones will be created? And what are the addresses of these synagogues which are affected by it? When will the law be adopted? And when will the illegal synagogue start applying for the
So I think I'll try to answer the question. So first of all, right now what I'm looking at, I believe there are 5 zones. If I'm looking at the correct version, there will be a public consultation being held in June, and my belief, Metro Sector, is it will be published as well in the Suburban on Wednesday.
Yes.
So there'll be the map of the zones will be published, so the public will be able to see it. In terms of the exact timeline, I cannot tell you that per se, but the next step is going to be the public consultation. There will be, as is the case for a bylaw like this, there'll be several readings of the bylaw. And Metro Sector again will correct me if I'm wrong. 3 readings for this one?
For this bylaw, there are 2
readings.
There was a draft bylaw that was tabled. There's going to be a public consultation, subsequent to which council would adjudicate upon the adoption of the bylaw.
Okay. So there'll be multiple readings, and luckily Metro Sector keeps track. Sometimes there's 2 readings, sometimes 3. So that's why we have him, to make sure we do it correctly.
It's not obvious.
But look, in terms of, I won't repeat what the mayor has said, but I would say the goal is to find a balance. We want to make sure residents are safe. If residents are in a non-conforming synagogue, we want to make sure that there are exits, just as we are here in this chamber. There's emergency exits and emergency lighting. We're certified, just as I work in my day job at a school. We get visitors from the fire department once a year who make sure that everything is up to code. We have architects and engineers who do inspections and so on. We have the Ministry of Education and so on who does inspections also. We want to make sure that they're safe. We also want to make sure that it reduces the nuisance for the neighbors, but at the same time, for those that are going to become legalized, we want to make sure they are going to be following the code. So in terms of the exact timeline, Mr. Hara, I can't give it to you per se, but like I said, the best thing would be to, in the paper on Wednesday in the Suburban, you'll see published the map and more details. We'll have the consultation in June, which will be open to the public. And in terms of the timeline, it'll depend how quickly or slowly things move. What happens, I will say what happens sometimes in the summer, we'll get into July and August, sometimes people are on vacation, so that may slow things down a touch, but I would say by the fall, the matter should be resolved one way or the other.
When are you prepared to announce to the addresses of these synagogues?
So I'm not clear if I understand the question. You're talking in terms of communicating with the addresses themselves, or in terms of communicating with the addresses in the neighborhood? So I don't have the list of the addresses in front of me. What I can tell you is there's been multiple meetings involving the mayor, involving our city manager, our associate city manager, involving some of the councilors. I have to admit, I haven't attended those meetings myself, but there have been multiple meetings. So my understanding is those addresses understand. Some of them are more understanding, I would say. Some are less understanding to the process. But the process is moving forward. And the goal is to make sure that everyone is informed. And we will make sure both the members of the residents who live in the vicinity and let's say the owners of these properties where there are non-conforming synagogues, we want to make sure they are informed of what their rights are within the law. This PPC law I have to admit, I was researching myself. We're not the first city to do a PPC law. I was just looking it up, actually, Westmount, that's the French version of it, but Westmount, Gatineau and so on, the Gaspé, there's a list of many other cities that do this similar type of bylaw. So it's a pretty standard practice. It's the first time we're doing Côte Saint-Luc, at least in the last 16 years since I've been a counselor, but it's one that's done in other locations. And like I said, those addresses, they have been informed from my understanding. And like I said, there'll be more information in the suburban, and I encourage you, I know you were a regular, and I hope to see you at the public consultation coming up in June. Thank you, Mr. Ara. Were there any more questions, Matt Schechter?
This completes the questions live. The only thing I'm not 100% sure of is, are there any other, okay.
All right. Well, thank you. Thank you for the questions. Just a reminder, there is a second question period at the end of the evening. The second question period is generally reserved for items that are on the agenda. The PPCMO technically was not on the agenda, but it was something obviously we're open to responding to at this point. So we'll move on, so we'll move on to approval of the minutes, and I'll ask Councillor Kajewski to please move that one.
Thank you, Councillor Daly. Hold on one sec. Sorry. Sorry, my agenda closed on me on my computer. The meeting, I just need the dates of the meeting.
April 11th.
Just April 11th?
Yeah.
Okay, so I hereby move that the the council meeting for April 11th is well, I hereby that meeting is tabled. Am I tabling it? No, I'm not tabling it.
It is hereby adopted.
It's hereby adopted. I apologize. I don't multitask well.
All right, thank you, Councillor Kajewski. And I'm looking for a seconder, seconded by Councillor Savag. Thank you. Any business arising? Not seeing any. We'll move on to the monthly departmental reports, and I'll ask Councillor Schuster to please move the reports.
I hereby move the monthly departmental reports submitted for April 2022 be and are hereby approved as drafted.
Thank you, Councillor Schuster. I'm looking for a seconder, Councillor Azarad. Thank you. Are there any comments or any points that anyone would like to raise? How about, I see Councillor Cohn. Go ahead, Councillor Cohn.
Thank you, Councillor Early. I wanted to announce that after a 2-year absence, the Côte Saint-Luc Golf Classic is returning on August the 9th at Meadowbrook. Councillor Burku and Manny Young from the men's club are the co-chairs. We had our first live meeting at the golf course the other day. It's going to be again August 9th. We hope all members of council will join us. We're going to be honoring former councillors Glenn J. Nashin and Sam Goldblum. They are our official honorees. And I'm glad to report that Sam, who was hospitalized with COVID-19 just a few weeks ago, is on his way to recovery, and he joined us at the golf course the other day for our meeting. So we're looking forward to a wonderful golf in August. Let's hope the rain stays away that day. Just want to remind people that I'm doing my monthly local authors lectures for the library. The most recent one is on the library YouTube site. That is with Tara Schwartz, who talks about her road to motherhood. The next one will be about Stephen Dorsey, a former Montrealer who wrote a provocative book about being of mixed race, growing up with a white father who was a racist. It's quite a book, quite a story. I've read it. I've spoken to before, so he will be my interview at the end of May 24th, and of course, all those remain online. Harry Rosen, the late Dr. Harry Rosen, who just a couple of years ago, just a few weeks before he passed away, he put up a beautiful sculpture in our backyard of the library. He also loaned us, his family loaned us a beautiful sculpture in the library. They've now donated it to the library. You could see it. It's valued at $47,000, and he's donated that to the library. The summer in the city, the library will be having a number of events starting very soon, including some very exciting live outdoor events. And one of the highlights of the summer will be Yidlife Crisis, A Closer Luke. Yes, they're doing a special spoof on Côte Saint-Luc. Both Ellie Battalion and Jamie Ellman are from Côte Saint-Luc, so they're going to have a good laugh at our expense, and that's going to be on August 17th. Lots to look forward to this summer. Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you, Councillor Cohn. Oh, perfect. How about who'd like to go next? Councillor Sabai, go ahead.
Is it better now? So just a couple of key performance indicators on our public safety department. Over 1,000 calls received from our dispatch unit, close to 2,000 total discussions within minutes, discussions done by our dispatchers answering all the questions and giving an excellent service to our residents. One of the aspects that I like to point out is obviously the EMS service that covered 100% of the shifts with over 211 calls, which translates into about 1,700 volunteer hours in our ambulance service. Part of that is obviously making sure that we have enough volunteers, and recognizing these volunteers is always very important to me. Luc Marchand, 16 years, Philippe Chateauvert, who is right here with 8 years of service. Thank you very much, Phil. François Julien, 6 years, Yannick Bouchard, 4 years, Alexandre Carec-Gagné, 4 years, Tiswai or Josephine Chu, 4 years, David Barnfield, a year, and Craig Barcelou and Olivier Medledge also in their first year of service at EMS. So thank you again for allowing me to do this. I'm gonna see if my fellow councillor and mayor replacement wants to talk about VCOP. Otherwise, I can go ahead and, you want to go ahead? Yeah, go ahead. Oh, so you'll mention it later on? Is that I guess, yeah, okay, no, that's it for me, guys, on public safety. Yeah, that's it for me. I think overall, I also want to mention the very successful Ruth Kovac blood drive that was held this month. And I think it's the first time that we actually had somewhat of a waiting list to give blood. So hopefully next year we will be increasing that number from, I think, by 75 people at least. So to bring up the number to 200. Ruth Kovac would be proud of that accomplishment. I know that, you know, it's so important to give blood, and it's such a wonderful thing, not only for your health, but for the health of others. So hopefully next year we'll be a lot more active with less COVID restrictions. So I applaud all the volunteers that were there, and the family, the Kovac family as well, for being there every single year with absolute dedication. That's it for me, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Sabag. And I'll go to Councillor Schuster, and maybe just, actually, I'll mute myself. Go ahead, Councillor Schuster.
Thank you, Councillor Erdely. Just a few highlights from recreation. The Côte Saint-Luc Tennis Club is open and accepting new members. Rembrandt and Caldwell hard courts are also open for play, and I saw people playing tennis this past weekend. It gave me hope that spring is actually here. The Intercommunity Youth Baseball League is set to begin as well, making its long-awaited return after a 2-year hiatus due to COVID. This year, to get back into the swing of things, pun intended, the teams are made up by age group, but we're merging municipal groups so that you know, we have a full roster of players from Côte Saint-Luc and Hampstead and other municipalities, and they all play together. And I think that's really great. The outdoor pool is scheduled to open on May 20th. Yes, pool season is approaching, and they will sustain a preseason schedule. Côte Saint-Luc Recreation is still looking for lifeguards, swim instructors, and camp counselors for the summer seasons. And you can see job postings for anybody interested in those vacancies on the city website. And always you can find more news about recreation on their Facebook page, their Instagram. And I just want to thank the recreation team for always being on the move and mobilizing and planning all these activities, coordinating with clubs and groups and teams. And I just want to encourage all our residents to get out there and partake in these activities in our facilities, and to please play safe and wear a helmet. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Schuster. And would anyone like to go next? Councillor Kajowski.
Thank you, Councillor Early. So I wanted to mention something that I did not mention earlier regarding lead pipes and pneumatic excavations. Those homes whose lead results came in at 19 parts per billion or higher, I believe, either 19 or 20, those pipes also will be replaced this year. And the same goes for the results of those homes whose water test shows 20 parts per billion or 19 parts per billion or higher. This year, our intention is to change those pipes and prioritize them, so to change those next year. On that kind of topic, again, I'm going to sound like a broken record because I say it every month, and I'll say it again. If you have not yet had your water tested, please do so. I actually learned something new about lead pipes just the other day from our engineering department, and we changed the booking system to allow for homes whose private side has been confirmed copper and public side has been confirmed lead, but have not yet had their water tested. So those homes now will be eligible for a water test, even though we know that the pipe is lead, because per the engineering department, and I'm not going to speak about the details because I'm not an engineer and I don't know the details, but just the short of it is that there's a possibility of a process occurring within the lead pipe that in effect lines it with a calcification that occurs in the water over the years, so that even if you have a lead pipe, it is possible that your results would be under 5 parts per billion and your water will be safe. So that's why we've opened the testing to those homes as well. So hopefully we get 600, 700, 800 plus homes tested this summer. Please book it if you have not yet done so. If you have already booked, and we know your results, then obviously you'll have that visual inspection done this year. And I believe we're moving that resolution tonight, awarding the contract to do those pneumatic excavations, those visual inspections of the pipes for homes that were tested last year. On another note, I noticed just today, the work began on Emerald Park, or a park that has yet to be named. So we'll be installing 3 new pieces of playground equipment, a half basketball court, a water mister feature, and a water fountain. And Public Works will be making a little crushed stone path in the parks that parks at the corner of Emerald and Wayville. It's going to be great. It's going to be, I guarantee, one of the most densely used parks in the city, similar to Fletcher Park in your district, Councillor Italy. I hope to see as many children in the soon-to-be completely destroyed Emerald Park. That'll be finished probably, I'm going to say, in the month of July, because they're going to be laying down new grass, so the park will be closed while that grass takes hold. I guess that's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kajowski. And I was going to just add, it could be, I have to think back to my inorganic chemistry days. It could be an oxidation reduction reaction that goes on, but I have to read up a bit more on that. Councillor Asser, anything you want to add? All right, I'll just share a few points myself. So first, I'll start on the finance side. We're up to 135 water filter rebates that we've received. And as per Councillor Kajowski's point, we encourage residents to get their water tested and to use the filter rebates. We have 2 levels of rebates, but please use those rebates to make sure the water is free of lead, at least until all the pipes can be replaced. We've also processed or received 16 request for rebate for charging stations and encourage more residents. I know we're creeping up to 30 so far on council, and the mayor will be joining us in terms of having electric vehicles shortly. So we encourage residents to purchase electric vehicles. I know with the price of gas as it is, it definitely makes it worth it in the long run. Also on the finance side, we'll be hearing more about it. We had our report from the auditors, so we'll be tabling the report of our external auditors a bit later this evening. On a positive note, no tax sale was required again, so this is my 16th year, and I'm happy to report that we were down to a few. I think last month at this time we were down to about 6 or so, but all the outstanding payments, and these are for taxes that are from 2 years ago, all have been paid and all processed. So no sales for taxes again this year. And just finish off on the finance side, a reminder to residents that May 25th is the due date for the second installment. And as I always say, please try to do the payment a day or two earlier, because sometimes it takes some time to process from one bank to another. We don't want any resident to incur any late fees. So I encourage, the due date is May 25th. Process your payment a day or two early, please. In terms of, turn that on the local side, I just want to share 2 things. One, for Schwartz Park, we'll be putting in place a new bike repair station, similar to the one that is in the back of City Hall, the back of City Hall Library. So that'll be installed in Schwartz Park this summer. So that'll give an opportunity or a spot for residents who need to do some quick tune-ups on their bikes, a spot to do that. And at Fletcher Park, so good news and not so good news. I'll start with the not so good news. We've had some issue with the new climbing structure at Fletcher Park, which was installed just a few months ago with some water infiltration. However, the good news is the climbing structure was fully under warranty, and the company is going to replace it with a new one. It seems there was some sort of defect with the one we received, so that will be replaced at no cost to the city. So we'll have a brand new one installed very soon. And on the environmental front, I don't have the stats for waste, but I wanted to share that I was reading through the reports, and we recycled 50 pounds of PPE, of personal protective equipment, that was recycled for plastic and metal and so on that could be reused. And finally, with regard to VCOP, to follow up on Councillor Savag's point, our VCOP vehicles traveled 2,276 kilometers for the 2 vehicles, and we had 181.5 total hours of volunteering in our first full month. So because we started in the middle of March, so April being the first full month, and we hope, of course, to increase that number with more people volunteering in the month of May and so on. And that's it for. And finally, I thought Councillor Schuster was going to mention this, but I will. May 14th. So May 14th, there is a rally with regard to Bill 96. As you know, this council has adopted 2 resolutions expressing its strong and vehement disagreement with Bill 96 and the multiple clauses within. So I encourage all residents to please attend the rally May 14th, starting around 10 a.m. Just outside Dawson College. And the march will go towards the Premier's office. So again, we hope to see people out in large numbers, and hope that this will send a strong message. And now we'll move on. Actually, I'm gonna be doing some of the next ones. So we'll move on to finance, although I'll ask Maître Schechter to officially table the financial report and external auditors report for 2021. So go ahead, Maître Schechter.
So I can hereby confirm that the treasurer remitted to me the financial report and the external auditor's report for 2021. I have the report in hand, and it is formally tabled.
Thank you, Maître Schechter. And I'll just mention that the report will be posted tomorrow at some point. And I don't see, so tomorrow at some point, it'll be posted on our city website. And now I will call upon the mayor to read the mayor's report on the highlights of the financial report and external auditor's report. Go ahead, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you so much.
Oh, just hold on one second. I'm just gonna,
We're good? Okay, in conformity with section 105.2.2.
Just hold on one second.
In conformity with section 105.2.2 of the City and Towns Act, I am pleased to present the highlights of the financial statements for the year ended December 31st, 2021. The financial results in this report are a summary of the official financial statements of the City of Côte Saint-Luc, audited by Deloitte, SNCRL. Although the report has important information, I invite you to view the detailed Ministry of Municipal Affairs financial statements posted on the city's website. Please find below various report highlights and financial statements for the year ended December 21st, 2021. Last year, I reported that the MAM provided a $3 million grant to cover COVID-19 related revenue expenses. The City Council decided to use the grant in 2021 and 2022 to offset the agglomeration apportionment increases and other revenue expenses affected by the pandemic. Although $1.35 million was budgeted in 2021, the funds were not required and the entire amount was transferred to 2022. That was because of surplus, unexpected surplus. The grant has already provided a direct benefit to residents since it allowed the city to freeze taxes for the average family home in 2021 and reduce the tax rate increase in 2022. In 2021, operating revenues increased by $717,600. That's 0.9%. Operating expenses increased by $5.2 million, 7.4%. Capital repayments increased by $598,300, 12.1%. And apportions to from revenues decreased by $781,500, minus 81.5% compared to 2020. Despite challenges in offering programs and services due to restrictive safety measures, the city posted a local operating surplus of $3.75 million in 2021. The surplus was possible due to a high number of property sales that generated record-breaking transfer duties. The major variances that contributed to the $3.75 million surplus, budget versus actual, are the following. Revenues. Increase in transfer duties of $2,470,600. Increase in government grant transfers, $369,500. Increase in taxation revenues due to new construction, $717,800. Increase in permits and license revenues, $200,300. Decrease in recreation and cultural program revenues, $1,225,000, and increase in other revenues, $691,600. Expenses. Increase in administrative and public safety expense, $62,600. Decrease in public works expenses, $326,600. Decrease in snow removal expenses, $438,900. Decrease in environmental expenses, $261,900. Decrease in recreation, ACC, and library expenses, $1,198,600. Decreases in appropriations, A, from the Water Financial Reserve to cover lead service line testing in 2021, $42,800, and the portion of the MAM grant that was not required in 2021, $1,345,700. In 2021, general administration expenses, including agglomeration and amortization, increased by $4.2 million, 51.2% compared to 2020. The agglomeration apportionment increased by $3.09 million, 72.7%, due to the City of Montreal's redistribution of expenses. Amortization increased by $155,400, 3.6%, and other local expenses increased by $1.03 million, 24.1% compared to 2020. Note the city has no control over the distribution of agglomeration apportionment. The city received an unqualified audit opinion from Deloitte regarding the financial statements that were deposited by the city treasurer to the council on May the 9th, 2022. The auditor's report indicates that in all material respects, the financial results represent an accurate portrait of the city's financial position as of December 31st, 2021. Report highlights. The city's unrestricted operating surplus of 11.4 million at December 31st, 2021, compared to 9.25 million at December 31st, 2020. The unrestricted surplus can be used to finance capital projects, reduce long-term debt. In addition, the city has a restricted surplus of 5.27 million at December 31st. The 5.27 million restricted surplus includes MAM COVID grant of 2.96 million, reserve funds for various capital projects, 1.9 million, and legal purposes, 400,000. The city's long-term debt has decreased slightly to 50.7 million at December 31st, 2021, compared to 52 million at December 31st, 2020. The city borrowed 5 million in long-term debt and reimbursed 6.3 million in capital repayments in 2021. Report highlights for capital investments. The city spent 11.2 million in capital expenditures in 2021. The expenditures were financed by the tech grant, 1.8 million, internal transfers from surplus reserves, 1.4 million, and long-term debt, 5 million. The balance will be financed in 2022 once the remaining projects are completed. Conclusion. On an annual basis, the city council and administration focus on creating a fair, efficient, and responsible budget and in monitoring revenues and expenses throughout the year. I'm very pleased with the current financial position of the city and assure you that we will continue to do everything possible to maintain the same excellent level of service and high quality standards in the future. And I want to thank our treasurer, Angelo Marino, for the excellent work. This wouldn't all be possible, and the city would not necessarily be in the excellent financial situation that it is without the great management of our money, with the advice and guidance of our city treasurer, who is cautious and ensures that we spend our money intelligently. So thank you so much, Angela Marino, for that, and for the whole audit committee chaired by Stephen Ertley and the whole team, and of course, all of our directors who work very closely with Jonathan Schechter, city manager, and the entire director team to ensure that each department receives the necessary funds to operate efficiently and effectively. And it's thanks to you all working with Angelo that we're able to give the residents of Côte Saint-Luc the highest possible quality of life. So, je me remercie. Le document, c'est aussi en français. Je veux faire un grand remerciement à notre directeur de finances, notre trésorier, Angelo Marino, et toute l'équipe dans la ville de Côte Saint-Luc qui a travaillé très fort pour donner la meilleure qualité de vie à nos résidences avec un taux de taxation raisonnable. So, merci à tout le monde. Thank you, Stephen. Thank you, Councillor Erdely.
Thank you. Merci, Monsieur le Maire. Thank you very much. And I also want to echo the Mayor's point and say a special thank you to our treasurer, Angelo Marino. It continues to be a pleasure to work with him, and we're in very good hands with him and his team. Just to reiterate the highlight, if I may. So the highlight is for the year 2021, the city ended with a surplus of roughly 3,755,000. The two largest items that are contributing to the surplus, the first one is the transfer duties or the welcome tax. This is one that we never know what happens until the end of the year. But on terms of the transfer duties or welcome tax, we ended up with a roughly 2.5 million of the $3.7 million surplus. And then the next largest item was taxes or taxation revenue from new construction. So there were some new buildings that just came on the roll after the start of the year, and that added another 700,000 in terms of revenue. So in terms of the parks and recreation, there was sort of an in-out. We had less in revenue, but less in expenses also. So that was pretty much a wash. But basically, those are some of the larger items. And as the Mayor mentioned, and as I mentioned, it'll be posted on the website. And now actually we'll adopt a resolution. So I will read the resolution now. Be it resolved that in accordance with the law, the Côte Saint-Luc City Council hereby authorizes and orders the publication of the text of the mayor's report on the financial statements for the year ended December 31st, 2021 of the city of Côte Saint-Luc to be distributed to each civic address in the municipality. Perfect. To be distributed to each civic address in the municipality. Thank you. Let's look for a seconder. Councillor Kajowski, thank you. Any questions? If not, all in favor, please raise your hand. Adopted. Thank you. And now we'll move on to item 5C, and I'll ask Meto Schechter as well to report on the tabling of the value for money optimization of resource audit report prepared by Deloitte.
Thank you very much, Councillor Erdely. Pursuant to Article 108.2.0.1 of the Cities and Towns Act, the city performed the official value for money audit done by its auditors, Deloitte, and the city's treasurer has indeed deposited this value for money audit pursuant to Article 108.3 of the Cities and Towns Act. And so I hereby declare that the said report has officially been tabled.
Thank you, Maître Schechter. Merci beaucoup. And now we'll move on to item 5D, the tabling of the audit committee report for the 2020 fiscal year. Go ahead, Maître Schechter.
Correct, Councillor Erdely. So I would also like to confirm that the city treasurer remitted to me the audit committee report for the 2021 fiscal year. And I'd like to also officially declare the said report tabled.
Thank you, Maître Schechter. And just to mention, this is a new report, so it'll be covering the highlights of the audit committee. And this also should be posted on the city website tomorrow. Next, we'll move on to the resolution to approve disbursements. I'll just get to there. Be it resolved that the Côte Saint-Luc City Council approves the attached list of disbursements for the period of April 1st, 2022 to April 30th, 2022 for a total amount of $4,323,998.42 in Canadian funds, and that Treasurer Certificate number 22-0085 dated May 2nd, 2022 has been issued by the City Treasurer attesting to the availability of funds to cover the described expenses. And I'll ask for a seconder, Councillor Kajowski. I'll just give some background on this. So first, one of the highlights is that we purchased 2 brand new hybrid vehicles for public security. Now, they are not electric yet. This was my hope, but I was working with the Public Security Department and Public Works. The feeling was that for their requirements, the electric vehicles that were available as options were not the right fit for them. But my hope is that in 2 years from now, when we go to, when we go for the next round of public security vehicles, we'll be able to get fully electric vehicles for public security. But I was watching our director, Philippe Chateauvert, driving one of the new vehicles, and I could sense just by hearing the sound of the engine and the motor that it's more efficient, and hopefully we'll use less gas and be more environmentally friendly. We also had a payment in terms of some of the roads. So a payment for the road work that was done previously on Smart and Emerson. There was a payment of bond and a regular payment for our water work to SEMO. So it's been moved and seconded. All in favor? All opposed? Carried. Thank you. Now I'll move on to concordance and short-term resolution for a bond issue in the amount of $3,998,000. I'll move on to the next item. Be it resolved that the loan bylaw mentioned the first paragraph of the preamble be financed by bonds in accordance with the following condition. Turn that on. The bonds, 1 bond per maturity will be dated May 20th, 2022. Interest will be payable semi-annually on May 20th and November 20th of each year. The bonds will not be redeemable in advance. However, they may be redeemed with the consent and the holders in accordance with the Act respecting municipal debt and loans. The bonds will be registered in the name of the Canadian Depository for Securities Limited, CDS, and filed with it. CDS will act on behalf of its participants as a registrar for the book-based system, entry agent, and paying officer in charge of transactions regarding its members. CDS will proceed with the transfer of funds according to the legal requirements of the bonds. And for that purpose, the Côte Saint-Luc City Council authorizes the city treasurer to sign the documents required by the Canadian banking system entitled Autorisation pour le plan de débit préautorisé destiné aux entreprises. CDS will make payments of the principal and interest to members through electronic funds transfers. For this purpose, CDS will directly withdraw the required amounts from the following account: the Royal Bank of Canada, Cavendish and Kildare branch, and that the bonds shall be signed by the mayor and the city treasurer. The city of Côte Saint-Luc, as entitled by law, has mandated CDS to act as its fiscal authenticator agent, and the bonds will only become valid once they have been authenticated. That with regard to the annual capital amortization schedule for 2028 and subsequent years, the future terms of the following loan bylaws, 2460, 2447, and 2444 will be shorter than the original set, i.e. for a term of 5 years as of May 20th, 2022, instead of the term prescribed for set amortizations, each subsequent issue being for the balance or part of the balance due on the loan. So moved. I'll call for a seconder. Thank you, Councillor Kajewski. So I'll give some background. So basically what this is, and I've shared before, what happens now is we have a bond that is up for renewal, just as one has a mortgage. My mortgage is a 25-year mortgage. However, every 5 years, I renew the rate. That is similar to what we're doing now. So we're renewing. So these bonds actually, some of these go back to 2006. Some go back to 2016, 2015. So this includes work that was done on the roof of the Bernard Lang Civic Center. So this is the City Hall complex. It includes work that was done, renovations to the library. And this was actually going back to 2005, 2006. Some purchase of vehicles, playground equipment, and park upgrade done at Trudeau Park, and work on the Westminster Underpass. So those are the original bylaws where this work relates to. It's been moved and seconded. All in favor? And motion carried. Thank you. And we'll move on now to item 6A, authorization for councillors Suzanne Andrea Schuster and Leora Azarad to officiate solemnized marriages within the territory of the city of Côte Saint-Luc. And I'll call on Councillor Sabag to present this next motion.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. That the council hereby authorizes Councillor Susan Andrea Schuster and Leora Azarad to officiate and to solemnize marriages within the territory of the city of Côte Saint-Luc. That Tammy McEwen, Executive Assistant, and Karayoun Nasser Efshani, Secretary, be and hereby authorized to sign any documentation required to give effect to the foregoing, and that that this resolution be for immediate action.
Thank you, Councillor Sabag. I'm calling for a seconder. How about Councillor Kajewski? Anything you want to add, Councillor Sabag? Okay, so thank you. I'll just mention that the reason this is being done for Councillor Schuster and Councillor Azarad is because the other councillors have already been, let's say, I guess, officiated to do marriages. I myself have done 2 of them over the years. I'm going to be doing another one this summer. Looking forward to it. It's been a little while. So it's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
I will say I welcome the competition now, because when emails go out, it's been me regularly. I've done 6 of them in the last couple of years. So congratulations and mazel tov to Councillor Schuster and Azarad. It's one of the pleasures of being a councillor. Sorry to interrupt, Councillor Early.
No, go ahead. It's perfectly fine, Councillor Kajewski. Like I said, I've enjoyed it myself. I haven't done it with COVID recently, but looking forward to doing another one this summer. We'll move on to item 7A, Councillor Sabag.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. That the City of Côte Saint-Luc Council approves the hiring of Cedric Desnoyers Watkins as public security agent, part-time auxiliary white collar position, effective April 19th, 2022. That the treasurer certificate number 22-0081 dated May 2nd, 2022 has been issued by the city treasurer attesting to the availability of funds to cover the described expenses.
Thank you, Councillor Sabag. Seconded by Councillor Schuster. Anything to add? All right, if not.
No, it's just some more very capable talent to our public safety team.
Perfect. Well, we welcome the new member. All in favor? Motion carried. Next is 7B, hiring of one reception, admission, and shop attendant, Parks and Recreation, permanent position, white collar. Go ahead to Councillor Schuster.
Thank you, Councillor Erdely. Be it resolved that Côte Saint-Luc City Council ratifies the hiring of Maria Contenicio as a permanent reception, admission, and shop attendant effective February 12th, 2022. That treasurer certificate number 22-0083 dated May 2nd, 2022 has been issued by the city treasurer, attesting to the availability of funds to cover the above described expenses.
Thank you, Councillor Schuster. Seconded by Councillor, I believe seconded Councillor Sabag. Thank you. Anything to add, Councillor Schuster?
Nothing to add.
All in favor? Motion carried. Next is 7C, hiring of one reception, admission, shop attendant, Parks and Recreation Department, auxiliary position, part-time, white collar. Go ahead, Councillor Schuster.
Thank you, Councillor Erdely. Be it resolved that Côte Saint-Luc City Council ratifies the hiring of Lina L. Meliani as part-time auxiliary reception, admission, and shop attendant effective March 31st, 2022. That treasurer certificate number 22-0082 dated May 2nd, 2022 has been issued by the city treasurer, attesting to the availability of funds to cover the above described expenses.
Thank you, Councillor Schuster. Seconded by Councillor Sabag. All in favor? Motion carried. Next, we move on to 7D, hiring a white collar, Parks and Recreation Department, auxiliary positions. Go ahead, Councillor Schuster.
Thank you, Councillor Erdely. Be it resolved that Côte Saint-Luc City Council approves the hiring of the white collar auxiliary employees whose names are listed on the document titled Auxiliary Employees White Collars Hiring, dated May 6, 2022, and that said employees' terms of employment will be as per the conditions of the collective agreement. That treasurer certificate number 22-0084 dated May 2nd, 2022 has been issued by the city treasurer, attesting to the availability of funds to cover the above described expenses. I'll just explain that a little bit. It is a list of 9 seasonal employees, day camp, lifeguards, and pedal boat monitor.
Thank you, Councillor Schuster. Seconded by Councillor Sabag. All in favor of the list? Perfect. Motion carried. Now I'll move on to item 7E, professional services, hiring of a consultant for group insurance in the context of a UMQ regroupement of municipalities. Councillor Gajowski.
Thank you, Councillor Erdely. I think we only have a French resolution, correct? Yeah. Alors, il est résolu que la Ville de Côte Saint-Luc confirme son adhésion au regroupement de l'UMQ pour retenir les services professionnels d'un consultant en assurance collective pour les municipalités et organismes dans le cadre d'un achat regroupé et confié à l'UMQ, le processus menant à l'adjudication du contrat, que le contrat octroyé sera d'une durée d'1 année, renouvelable d'année en année sur une période maximale de 5 ans, que la Ville s'engage à fournir à l'UMQ dans les délais fixés les informations nécessaires à l'appel d'offres, que la Ville s'engage à respecter les termes et conditions du dit contrat comme si elle avait contracté directement avec le fournisseur à qui le contrat sera adjugé, que la Ville s'engage à payer à l'UMQ des frais de gestion de 1,15% des primes totales versées par la municipalité.
Merci, conseiller Kujaski. C'est proposé et appuyé par le conseiller Sabin. Est-ce qu'il y a quelque chose que vous voulez dire sur cette résolution?
No, this is it's quite simple, just an authorization to pay premiums. Oh, sorry, my bad. I'm on 8A. It's just the professional services for group insurance through the Union des municipalités de Québec.
Thank
To our
you.
advantage.
Merci beaucoup. Est-ce que tout le monde est en faveur? All in favor? Motion carried. Next, we move on to 8A, so also on insurance. I'll ask Councillor Kajowski, authorization of payments of insurance premiums.
Thank you, Councillor Erdely. One moment, just get to the resolution. Okay, so be it resolved that Council hereby ratifies and approves the city's property insurance contracts and corresponding deductibles, which are annexed herewith as Annex A, entitled Regroupement des municipalités de l'île de Montréal, Côte Saint-Luc, note de couverture numéro MTL-22-57079, assurance de dommages 2022-2023, bloc A, to form an integral part of the minutes with their corresponding premiums payable to BFL Canada, Risque et Assurance Inc. from January 1st, 2022 to January 1st, 2023. That the preamble of this resolution forms an integral part thereof, as if cited hereinafter at length. That the Côte Saint-Luc City Council hereby approves payment of the premiums to BFL pursuant to the invoice dated January 20th, 2022 for the amount of $193,076.63, including applicable taxes. That Treasurer Certificate number 22-0062, dated March 16th, 2022, was issued by the City Treasurer to test the availability of funds to cover the above described expenses.
Thank you, Councillor Kajowski. Seconded by Councillor Azra, I believe. Seconded, thank you. Councillor Kajowski, anything you'd like to add?
Okay, so this is actually for property insurance, contrary to the previous resolution, and it's made up of primarily 2022 property insurance and other small items like broker fees and tax on premiums.
Thank you, Councillor Kajowski. All in favor? Motion adopted. And we'll move now to item 8B. And I'll ask Maître Schechter to table the report to council regarding mandatory UMQ training by elected officials. Go ahead, Maître Schechter.
Thank you very much, Councillor Erdely. Pursuant to Article 15 of the Municipal Ethics and Good Conduct Act, members of council must, within the 6 months following their mandate, participate in a course related to ethics and deontology. And pursuant to the same article, they must advise me, who in turn must make a report to council. So I have made a report to council, and I'm happy to announce that all members of our council have indeed participated in the course given by Union des municipalités du Québec, and therefore my report is now tabled and will form part of tonight's council minutes. Once again, the whole pursuant to Article 15 of the Municipal Ethics and Good Conduct Act.
Thank you, Maître Schechter. And I must say it was an interesting program, interesting training we did online, and look forward to the next round. We'll move on to item 9A, the bylaw 2597, to be entitled Bylaw 2597, creating a fee schedule for culture, sports, and leisure activities. And I'll ask Councillor Schuster to give the notice of motion and tabling of draft bylaw.
Thank you, Councillor Erdely. I hereby give notice of motion that bylaw 2597 to be entitled Bylaw 2597, creating the fee schedule for culture, sports, and leisure activities for the fall of 2022 and the winter of 2023 be presented at a later meeting for adoption.
And you're also just tabling the draft bylaw as well?
Indeed. Thank you, Councillor Erdely.
Perfect, thank you. Is any, maybe you'd like to share, Councillor Schuster, any of some of the new programs that are in there?
I was more going to talk about, there have been some feedback from members of our community and residents about different pricing structures. We do have resident and non-resident pricing for programming, and we are exploring some of the other possibilities, but at the same time, we're trying to simplify some of our pricing structure. I don't have confirmed details about all the different programming, but that's why we are tabling this, the pricing, the programming and pricing right now. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Schuster. We'll be seeing that, residents will be seeing that online in the next few months. We'll move on to item 10A, bylaw 2398-5, entitled bylaw 2398-5, amending bylaw 2398 to regulate parking and public safety. I'll ask Councillor Sabag to present this bylaw, present this motion.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That bylaw 2398-5, entitled bylaw 2398-5, amending bylaw 2398 to regulate parking and public safety, be and is hereby adopted.
Thank you, Councillor Sabag. It is seconded by Councillor Azarad. Councillor Sabag, would you like to share the main points on this bylaw?
Certainly. So basically, we had a bylaw that restricted car wash on the street, and now it is only restricted to, I guess, commercial people washing cars. And I actually had no idea that this was a a legal aspect of the city of Côte Saint-Luc. I just washed my car yesterday on the street. So full disclosure on that one. So I'm happy to see that it won't be illegal anymore to do so. And I'm happy to see that with the nice weather, we'll be able to take care of our cars that way. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Sabag. It's been moved and seconded. All in favor? Motion carried. We'll move on to item 11A, renewable contract for the maintenance of 2 refrigeration systems at the Samuel Moskowitz Arena. Councillor Azarad.
Thank you, Councillor Erdely. Be it resolved that the Côte Saint-Luc City Council hereby renews the contract for the maintenance of the 2 refrigeration systems at the Samuel Moskowitz Arena with Simcoe Refrigeration for an additional period of 3 years between June 1, 2022 and May 31, 2025 for a total amount of $55,320 plus applicable taxes. That the Treasurer's Certificate number TC220080 dated April 29th, 2022 has been issued by the City Treasurer attesting to the availability of funds to cover the described expenses.
Thank you, Councillor Azarad, seconded by Councillor Schuster. Councillor Azarad, would you like to share any background on this?
That one's straightforward. It's just a maintenance contract for the 2 refrigeration system, both for the indoor and outdoor arenas.
Yep. Thank you. I'll just add that, just to mention that in 2020, we upgraded the system to the new carbon dioxide, which is more environmentally friendly than the previous one that was, of course, mandated by the provincial government along with all arenas in the province. So it's been moved and seconded. All in favor? Motion carried. We'll move on to 11B, awarding a contract for the purchase of 1 asphalt roller. Councillor Azarad.
Thank you, Councillor Erdely. Be it resolved that the City of Côte Saint-Luc City Council hereby awards a contract to Equipment SMS Inc. for the purchase of 1 asphalt roller for a total amount of $42,500 plus applicable taxes. That the described expenses shall be financed from the loan bylaw number 2570, previously approved by the Ministère des Affaires Municipales d'Habitation, that the Treasurer's Certificate number 220088, dated May 3rd, 2022, has been issued by the City Treasurers attesting to the availability of funds to cover the described expenses.
Thank you, Councillor Azarad, seconded by Councillor Schuster. Anything to add on this one, or?
No, I wasn't sure we needed that. We didn't have one, so.
I'll just maybe add that it came in under budget, so which is
Yes.
a nice thing to see. So we have a mover and a seconder, all in favor. Perfect, motion carried. We'll move on to 11C, awarding a contract for the purchase of 2 salt boxes. Again, Councillor Azraq, go ahead.
Thank you, Councillor Erdely. So be it resolved that the Côte Saint-Luc City Council hereby awards a contract for the purchase of 2 salt boxes to Quebec Limited pursuant to the terms of tender number C05-2022 for a maximum amount of $127,022.44 plus applicable taxes. That the described expense shall be financed from the loan bylaws number 2547 and 2592. That the awarding of the aforementioned contract shall be subject to the approval of loan bylaw number 2592 by the Ministère des Affaires Municipales de l'Habitation. That the Treasurer's Certificate number TC 220087 has been issued by the City Treasurers on May 3rd, 2022, attesting to the availability of funds to cover the above described expenses.
Thank you, Councillor Azarad, seconded by Councillor Schuster. All right, anything to add, or?
No, nothing, thank you.
All right, I'll just maybe share that these, you can imagine the salt boxes over time, they corrode, and we're replacing one that is 19 years old and the other one that's 16 years old. So, just natural wear and tear, especially with our weather and the salt, of course. We'll move, oh, sorry, we have a mover and a seconder, all in favor. Motion carried. We'll move on to 12D, awarding of a contract. Oh, wait, sorry, 11D, sorry,
11.
I'm reading the wrong one. 11D, awarding of a contract for the purchase of 1 10-wheel truck with a tipper. Go ahead, Councillor Azraq.
Thank you, Councillor Erdely. Be it resolved that the Côte Saint-Luc City Council hereby awards a contract for the purchase of 1 10-wheel truck with tipper to West W. Côté et Fils Limité, the lowest conforming bidder under the law, for a total amount of $265,742 plus applicable taxes. That the described expenses shall be financed by the loan bylaw number 2592. That the awarding of the aforementioned contract shall be subject to the approval of said loan bylaw by the Ministère des Affaires Municipales de l'Habitation. That the Treasurer's Certificate number 220086 has been issued by the City's Treasurer on May 3rd, 2022, attesting to the availability of funds to cover the above described expenses.
Thank you, Councillor Azarad, seconded by Councillor Schuster. And I'll just mention that this is replacing an 18-year-old vehicle. So again, wear and tear, but we're using our vehicles to the fullest. It's been moved and seconded. All in favor? Motion carries. Next, we'll move on to Urban Development Engineering. 12A, awarding contract for professional services for pneumatic excavation and lead pipe replacement. Councillor Kudowski.
Thank you, Councillor Erdely. Be it resolved that the City of Côte Saint-Luc Council hereby awards a contract to Groupe Civitas Inc., the sole conforming bidder under the law, for a total negotiated amount of $197,000 plus applicable taxes. That the described expenses shall be financed by loan bylaw number 2582, previously approved by the Ministère des Affaires Municipales de l'Habitation. The Treasurer's Certificate number 22-0079, dated April 28, 2022, has been issued by the City Treasurer, attesting to the availability of funds to cover the described expenses.
Thank you, Councillor Gajewski, seconded by Councillor Azrad. Councillor Gajewski, anything you want to add?
So this is just the professional services portion of the pneumatic excavations plan for this year. We'll, I believe, be opening the envelopes for the actual work portion in about a month or a month and a half's time, and then the work will be, or is planned to be, from August to November. I should mention as well, with the sole bidder, we actually obtained a $1,500 discount on the contract. So thanks to the purchasing department for that.
Thank you, Councillor Kajowski. I'll just add, so there'll be, what was it, 887 pneumatic excavations. So any result that was over 5 parts per billion, which includes my house as well, will be one of those 887. I think
Mine as well.
Councillor Kajowski as well. So what it'll be is a small cut. It's about 12 inches by 12 inches or 18 inches by 18 inches, where they will examine the pipe directly and determine if it is in fact lead or copper, which portion is lead, which portion is copper. So mine will be done over the summer at some point, as well as 886 other residents of the city of Côte Saint-Luc. It's been moved and seconded. All in favor? Motion carries. We'll move on to 12B, awarding a contract for upgrading public streetlights on Mackle. Councillor Kajowski.
Thank you, Councillor Erdely. Be it resolved that the City of Côte Saint-Luc Council hereby awards a contract to Système Urbain Inc. for contractor services pertaining to the upgrading of the public streetlights on Mackle Street between Cavendish Boulevard and Einstein Road, in accordance with the terms of tender number C-16-22C, for a total amount of $412,323 plus applicable taxes. That furthermore, the city may consider an amount of 10% plus applicable taxes for any potential contingencies and extras if required, that shall first be approved according to the city's procedures, that the described expenses shall be financed from the capital investment bylaw number 2585, previously approved by the Ministère des Affaires Municipales de l'Habitation, a treasury certificate number TC 22-0077 dated April 27, 2022, has been issued by the city treasurer attesting to the availability of funds to cover the described expenses.
Thank you, Councillor Kajowski, seconded by Councillor Azarad. Councillor Kajowski, anything you want to add?
I will fully defer to you, Councillor Erdely, on this, because I know you love lighting.
So Councillor Kajowski is correct. The LED lights is one that is dear to my heart. Not only is it more environmentally friendly in terms of using less energy, but it's much brighter. So I will just share that there'll be 21 additional lights that we switched over to LEDs. And these ones on Mackle, for those who live in Côte Saint-Luc, will notice they're not metal, actually. These are concrete poles, which were put in at the time. The problem with the concrete is it's deteriorated. So they will be replaced with metal pipes, which is more commonly used. We've replaced so far 832 plus another 21. Plus there's a few more that we're having some issues on Westminster. There's a few that we added on Côte Saint-Luc Road as well that weren't done in the previous batch due to some issues in terms of hydro. But so we're almost halfway there. There are 2,047 streetlights in Côte Saint-Luc for anyone counting. So we're almost at the halfway point. And we hope to get there soon and finish the job. It'll take a few years, but every light will be LED within a few years. So it's been moved and seconded. All in favor of streetlights, please raise your hand. Thank you. Motion carried. And now we'll go to 12C, awarding a contract for bringing water service lines to 5 parks. Councillor Kajowski.
Thank you, Councillor Erdely. It resolved that the Côte Saint-Luc City Council hereby awards a contract to CMO Management Inc. for bringing water service lines to 5 parks for a total amount of $80,403.25 plus applicable taxes, that the described expenses shall be financed from the city's cumulative surplus small parks projects, that treasurer's certificate number 22-0076 dated April 27, 2022 has been issued by the city treasurer attesting to the availability of funds to cover the described expenses.
Thank you, Councillor Kajowski, seconded by Councillor Schuster. Councillor Kajowski, would you like to share names of the parks?
Yes, I would. I would also like to say, originally it was Councillor Schuster who was going to move this resolution, and we had a discussion because we're trying to communicate with the public that it actually is public works and engineering who are far more implicated in park infrastructure and maintaining the parks and working on the equipment of the parks, rather than the unaptly named Department of Parks and Recreation, which we would like nothing more than to rename the Department of recreation or recreation and culture. Anyway, that's for another discussion. But just to give you a little background on that, it's if you have a piece of broken equipment in a park that you find, contact our engineering or primary public works department who do the maintenance work on our parks. So thank you to the public works department. So that said, the parks that we are going to be bringing water into, Glen J. National Park, Father Foley Park, Ruth Kovac Park on the Kellert side, Eric Hellfield Park, and Arthur Ziegelbaum Park. There are as well parks planned for 2023, which we can discuss at a later date. But this is a great initiative by the Public Spaces Committee out of the small parks budget to just bring and prioritize making sure that there is water in our parks, and we're prioritizing those parks that are most trafficked, making sure that people can refill those water bottles. And yeah, that's it. And if you have anything else to add, Councillor Erdely.
That's perfect, Councillor Gajowski. So it's been moved and seconded. All in favor? Thank you. Motion carried. And we'll move on to item 12D, awarding a contract for the renovation of the Samuel Moscovich Arena exterior envelope. Councillor Kajowski.
Thank you, Councillor Erdely. Be it resolved that the Côte Saint-Luc City Council hereby cancels the public call for tenders number C-19-21-22C for the renovation of the Samuel Moscovich Arena's exterior envelope contractor services that was launched on February 25th, 2022 for the reason that all the bids received were deemed too high. That the council hereby awards a contract for the renovation of the Samuel Moscovich Arena's exterior envelope to Penco Limited for a total amount of $280,286.62 plus applicable taxes. That furthermore, the city may consider an amount of $14,500 plus applicable taxes for any potential contingencies and extras, if required, that shall first be approved according to the city's procedures. That the described expenses shall be financed from Loan Bylaw 2566, previously approved by the Ministère des Affaires Municipales de l'Habitation, and Loan Bylaw 2589, pending MAMASH approval. That the awarding of the aforementioned contracts shall be subject to the approval of Bylaw 2589 by the MAMASH. That Treasurer Certificate number TC 22-0078, dated April 25th, 2022, has been issued by the City Treasurer, attesting to the availability of funds to cover the described expenses.
Thank you, Councillor Kajowski, seconded by Councillor Schuster. Councillor Kajowski, anything you want to add?
I think it's a pretty detailed resolution. It's pretty self-explanatory.
Yeah, no, I'll just share that over the last few years, the city has prioritized upgrades to building envelopes. Those that are in the city hall right now, of course, you'll know that over the last 10 years, we've redone all the bricks and the windows of this building, and have been making sure our building envelope is in good state in all our facilities. So it's been moved and seconded. All in favor? Okay, and motion carried. And let the minutes reflect, Councillor Cohn has re-entered the room. We'll move on to item 13A. Councillor Kajowski, bylaw to amend bylaw 2217 of the bylaw to replace tables of norms and uses for certain zones. Go ahead.
Thank you, Councillor Erdely. I'll read the preamble on this one. Whereas a notice of motion of the present bylaw was given at the council meeting held on March 14th, 2022. Whereas the first draft bylaw was adopted by council on March 14th. Whereas after public notice was given, a written consultation was held from March 23rd, 2022 to April 7th, 2022 regarding the proposed bylaw amendment. Whereas the second draft bylaw was adopted by council on April 11th. Be it resolved that in conformity with the Act respecting land use and development, CQLR Chapter A-19.1, the Côte Saint-Luc City Council, hereby adopts the second draft bylaw, number 2217-59, to be entitled Bylaw to amend the zoning bylaw number 2217 of the City of Côte Saint-Luc in order to replace the current tables of use and norms for zones CC-3, CD-1, CD-5, and CD-8 with new tables of uses and norms.
If I can just give you a
Amendment.
You have to.
Yeah, are you able to hear me now? Okay, perfect. So just to clarify, this is the adoption of the final version, there was just a typographical error in the draft. So I would just ask if we can just correct the clerical error by stating the council hereby adopts the final version.
I apologize.
No, it's our fault. It's our fault.
Should I reread the resolution in its entirety?
No, because the preamble was accurate. The preamble gave effect to all the accurate dates, but when you get to the final paragraph, instead of saying the second draft, just say the final version of.
Okay, so whereas the final version or the second draft bylaw was adopted on April 11th,
Correct.
Council hereby adopts the final draft bylaw number 2217-59.
Correct, the final version, and then since there were no requests for a register to be held subsequent to the adoption, the bylaw would indeed be published.
All right.
So council all agrees with that friendly clerical amendment. We will adjust minutes accordingly.
Perfect. Thank you, Maitre Schechter. I believe that's friendly to the council. So we'll ask first for a seconder, and then I see the mayor wants to say a few words. Seconded by Councillor Azeret. And go ahead, Mr. Mayor, and I'll just make sure Darrell is, Director Levine is ready. Perfect.
Very good. Okay, so as we said earlier in the meeting, this is the point of the meeting where we're doing a final reading for the additional usage of the strip malls located to provide them the right to have religious use in these locations. One already has a congregation, the Bells community at the Adar strip mall in Westminster. But in addition to that one, we have the Cavendish Mall that is now allowed to have religious use should a congregation wish to go there. The Olenbeck building at 555 Westminster, and at 705 Kildare, the CIBC building. So these are, as I mentioned earlier, but it's being done right now. So as of a few moments ago, these places were not possible to allow for the usage of religious purpose, and now they are after the passing of this final adoption of the bylaw that we did. And we're doing all these things once again in an effort to try to ensure that our community knows that there's places for them in our community, present and future. So if future congregations decide to come to Côte Saint-Luc, and I'm sure many will, and they're welcome, we want to make it clear where there are very many different options for them to go. And one already is in there, the Bells community, and they will now be legal. So that's great. So thank you, council and staff, for working on this bylaw. And I'm very pleased that it went as smoothly as it did without any request for register or referendum whatsoever, which is good news and reflection of our community.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. All right, perfect. And I'll just add that there were signs up at each of the locations, so residents, of course, were able to see a large sign that was posted at each, which informed them of the change in the bylaw. We've heard from the mayor. Any other comments? Any other councillor who'd like to speak on this motion? All right, Councillor Cohen, go ahead.
Yes, like all of you, I've been a counselor for 16 years. People get upset about certain issues and they send letters to counselors, which they're entitled to do. So we've all received dozens of letters, but I've responded to some people who I know personally, and it seems that it's kind of a game of broken telephone, and people are getting, a partial message with not all the facts. And when I simply told them, first and foremost, there was no vote tonight. A lot of people thought there was a vote tonight that we were going to do certain things for the synagogues. No, the vote we're doing right now is something very positive. It's something very, it's great news for all houses of worship and potential, like the mayor said, present or past. And there'll be a consultation on June 20th. And I know that we've spoken to city staff, and we're going to have everything, I believe, on our website. We're going to have a formal message from the mayor that we can share, because I want to respond to these people. I want each of these people who take the time to write to get a response, but I want them to get the right response. I want them to understand that it's not the way they describe it. It's not a doomsday scenario, that no one is out to cause trouble. This very situation came up last fall. It was very public. There were no members of council at that time who expressed any concern over this issue. And right now, the last thing we need is something that's going to divide our community. So I think it's important to get all the facts together. The mayor has already met with Councillor Ben-Isri, who has as his portfolio to deal with community religious organizations. I know he's away right now. I hope he'll continue that process so that everything is explained. And we're here to represent the community as a whole, and we're certainly here to support everyone we can. So I want this to be a positive exercise. I really don't think any of us appreciate receiving letters where people are more or less just signing a form letter and not having all the facts. So thank you, Mr. Acting Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Cohn. Mr. Mayor, I believe you want to add an extra point.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, as Councillor Cohn, are we connected? So as Councillor Cohn mentioned, I want all those people who wrote kind emails, because the one that I read wasn't so kind, but we received many very respectful emails of concerned individuals with legitimate concerns, not properly informed, but legitimate concerns. And we're taking note of each and every one of those concerns, and everybody will receive a detailed response. As Councillor Cohn, it's not going to be just on your website. We've tracked every single email that's come in, and you will all be receiving a detailed response of exactly what's going on and what we're trying to do and how we're trying to do it. And we welcome you to join us at the consultation on the 20th after you receive that response, and even before. We don't have to wait till the 20th. We can hear from you with respect to the process and what we're trying to do and what we're trying to accomplish and how we're going to get there together. So yes, everybody will be receiving a response to their emails, with the exception of a couple where I don't have anything to say, like the one I read, but for the vast majority, you'll be getting a response.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councillor Azrad, go ahead.
Thank you, Councillor Early. I'm very glad to hear from both Mike, Councillor Cohen, and from the mayor that they are looking forward to getting more letters and hearing from the people and responding to them, contrary to what was said earlier. So I knew that was just a matter of clarification, because I know that it's our duty to hear from all residents and to respond to them. So I'm glad that that was clarified. And regarding this specific adoption and the final version of this bylaw, I definitely wanted to clarify. I also received a few calls about that. So I wanted people to know that nothing is being removed here. We are adding. It's just to give more opportunities for those who want to. In these commercial zones, some of them were not able to have religious institutions. So I definitely think anything that looks to add and improve and give more opportunities to all residents in Côte Saint-Luc, I think is positive. And that's one of the points in this particular bylaw. I think it's a very positive bylaw because we're looking at adding and improving just like we should be doing in everything. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Azrad. Anyone else want to chime in on this one? All right, if not, it's been duly moved and seconded. All in favor? Motion carried. Thank you. We'll move on to 13.1.1, 5759 Léger. Go ahead, Councillor Gajowski.
Thank you, Councillor Erdely. Be it resolved that the site planning and architectural integration program showing a second-story addition to an existing detached single-family dwelling on lot 1052779 and prepared by Ariel A. Cohen, architect, for the Planning Advisory Committee meeting of March 15th, 2022, and revised on March 18th, 2022, be approved according to the provisions of Chapter 14 of Bylaw 2217 of the City of Côte Saint-Luc.
Thank you, Councillor Kajowski. We have a seconder by Councillor Sabag. Councillor Kajowski, do you want to speak to this briefly?
Okay, so this is a second story addition at 5759 Leger. Thank you for multitasking, Councillor Erdely. Very, very impressive. So I believe that's the revised, yeah, that's the revision. So the initial project is not this one. There were some additions made, some bordering around the windows. This is a project that'll be just in the middle of Leger between Kildare and I guess the turn of Leger into McAleer in my district. Yeah, the residents or the architect made some very nice adjustments, and I believe this home will integrate very well, and it'll greatly improve the streetscape on Leger.
All right, thank you, Councillor Kajowski. It's been moved and seconded. All in favor? Okay, motion carried. And next we move on to 13.1.25618 Edgemore. Go ahead, Councillor Kajowski.
Thank you, Councillor. If I may just add that regarding Leger and the many projects that have been coming to PAC for second story additions, it's homes like this and homes like the one that's going up, or two homes that are going up, in fact, on Smart, that are going to be part of our soon to be received and discussed in Council of Architectural Guidelines. So in the future, when homeowners approach the Urban Planning Department and the Planning Advisory Committee for home expansions, we'll guide them in the proper direction to help them to find a project that conforms and improves on their streets. It really just fits in with the other homes in the area and doesn't go too large, and try to maintain a balanced housing stock. Okay, so with that said, 5618 Edgemore. Be it resolved that the site planning and architectural integration program showing facade modifications to an existing detached single-family dwelling on lot 1054392 at 5618 Edgemore and prepared by Alt and Agapi Architect for the Planning Advisory Committee meeting of April 12th, 2022, be approved according to the provisions of Chapter 14 of Bylaw 2217 of the City of Côte Saint-Luc.
Thank you, Councillor Kajowski. Seconded by Councillor Sabag. Perfect. Councillor Kajowski, would you like to share a bit more on this property?
Yeah, so this is it's a very nice project, very well received by PAC. It was very straightforward and passed unanimously. It's just really an improvement and modernization of the facade of the home at 5618 Edgemore, and even an upgrade in the vehicles, as you see, which is pretty impressive. You get an upgrade to the home and an upgrade to the cars as well. So that's great. Thank you. I believe it's not far from Councillor Sebag's house, right? Not too far. It's down the street.
And I believe at least one of the vehicles looks to be like an electric one.
It does.
So we had a, I believe we had a seconder. Councillor Sabag was seconding. So moved and seconded. All in favor? Motion carried. So we'll move to 13.2.1, 6711 Kerwin.
Thank you, Councillor Erdely. Be it resolved that in accordance with the provisions of bylaw G18-0005, the request for a minor exemption regarding the property located at 6711 Kerwin, lot 1561254, be and is hereby approved the whole as more amply delineated hereunder. The request is to allow the semi-detached single-family dwelling built in 1955 under permit number 1955-00139 to maintain its current front setback of 4.48 meters instead of the minimum required front setback of 4.57 meters, and to maintain its current secondary front setback of 4.01 meters instead of the minimum required secondary front setback of 4.57 meters. The whole notwithstanding the provisions of zoning bylaw number 2217, Annex B, Zone RU-5, and Article 4-4-1.
Thank you, Councillor Kajowski. Seconded by Councillor Sabag. Councillor Kajowski, anything you want to add, or this one seems pretty self-explanatory?
Yeah, it's pretty self-explanatory. It's to legalize an existing front setback that's off by 9 centimeters and a secondary front setback that's off by 56 centimeters.
Thank you, Councillor Kajowski. Moved and seconded. All in favor? Motion carried. And we'll move to the next one, 13.2.2. Go ahead, Councillor Kajowski.
Okay, so this again is for Léger, 5759 Léger, this time for a minor exemption. Be it resolved that in accordance with the provisions of bylaw G18-0005, the request for a minor exemption regarding the property located at 5759 Léger, lot 1052779, be and is hereby approved, the whole as more amply delineated hereunder. The request is to allow the existing detached single-family dwelling built in 1957 under permit number 1957-00370 to maintain its current east lateral setback of 1.77 meters instead of the minimum required lateral setback of 1.98 meters, and to allow the construction of a second story on the existing detached single-family dwelling to be located along the existing east lateral setback of 1.77 meters instead of the minimum required lateral setback of 1.98 meters, without having to provide a 2-car garage, existing 1-car garage, when the dwelling's proposed area is greater than 167.22 meters squared, excluding the area of the garage and of the basement floor, and with a maximum building height of 25 feet 10 inches instead of the maximum allowable height of 23 feet 5.5 inches, measured from the city sidewalk as per zoning bylaw 2217, which states that the maximum authorized height of any building in the concerned zone shall be neither inferior nor superior by more than 25% in relation to the average height of the neighboring buildings located at less than 30 meters on the same side of the street. The whole notwithstanding the provisions of zoning bylaw 2217, Annex B, Zone RU 43, Article 4-4-2, Article 7-2-1A, and Article 14-11-4.
Thank you, Councillor Kajowski. Seconded by Councillor Sabag. This one also pretty self-explanatory, though. Anything you want to add, Councillor Kajowski?
Yeah, most of it is fairly minor as minor exemption goes. The only one that's a little more contentious is the height of the building, but very often there's a give and a take when it comes to these projects. There's always a compromise to be had. In this case, I believe it was more of a sloped roof that doesn't give the impression of a larger home, even though it is going to be a little bit higher than is like permitted. That's why the minor exemption. But again, from the streetscape perspective, it won't appear as large as the numbers indicate.
Thank you, Councillor Kajowski. It's been moved and seconded. All in favor? Motion carried. And we'll move on to item 14, stance on issues to be presented at the next agglomeration council meeting. Councillor Sabag, go ahead.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. That the council take the following stance in view of any agglomeration council meeting to be held in June 2022 as follows: to authorize the mayor or his duly authorized replacement to make any decisions he deems necessary and in the best interest of the city of Côte Saint-Luc and its residents regarding the items on the agenda of the agglomeration council meeting to be held in June 2022 based on the information to be presented during those meetings.
Thank you, Councillor Sabag, seconded by Councillor Azarad. All in favor? Motion carried. Any other business? Okay, not hearing any. We'll move on to the second question period. And just a reminder to residents, everyone can see it on their screen, it's cotesaintluc.org/council, and you can go if you have a question. Mentor sector, do we have any questions for the second question period?
I believe there is one question. It is from Tamar Hertz. And I just want to make sure, yes. So she asks, and I quote, "Why would Mayor Brownstein discourage religious people and their organizations in our city from expressing their concern by email to their elected representatives? Email campaigns are a very normal part of our Canadian democracy. Did the council not receive any properly worded emails, or are you trying to paint everyone with the same brush? Why are you not encouraging all big caps CSL residents to conduct themselves properly, as personal attacks have also been launched by other residents with different opinions towards other members of council? I implore you not to help fan the flames of divisiveness within our city. This difficult situation requires exceptional leadership, and the city and all our communities need you to demonstrate that." End of quote.
Thank you. Okay. So I guess that question came in before Councillor Cohn, Councillor Azrat, and myself spoke. So I think it's been answered. Thank you.
There are no more questions, Councillor Hurley.
Thank you.
All right, well, if there are no other questions, then I wanted to say it's been a pleasure chairing the meeting. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
And we have, I guess we'll finish with a motion to adjourn.
Correct.
Moved by Councillor Sykes, seconded by Councillor Schuster. All in favor? And thank you and good night, everyone.
Good night. Thank
Good
you.
job, Councillor.